Just trying to get everybody in here. You guys bear with me. Here we come. Hello, hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Just trying to get everybody logged on, guys. So while we're waiting, if anybody has a question, feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself and we can talk. Let's have a conversation. Just waiting for everybody to get logged on. I figured today we'd do a little bit of talking about emotional support animals. I know that still raises quite a few questions. I'm just going to give you guys some tips and tricks to think about it in a different manner. Retrain your brain. Okay, let's retrain our brains. Unless somebody has something specific they want to talk about today, that will be the focus of what we're discussing is emotional support animals, therapy animals, service animals, guide dogs, etc. And I'm just going to wait just a couple minutes, like I said, to let everybody get logged on. Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting? Something I can answer for you, other than just shoot them. It's quick. It's still illegal, but it's fast. Nobody has nothing. Okay, great. All right, so today I'm going to talk about emotional support animals. If you guys have questions, please ask. Just want to bring you up to speed on an easier way to approach the whole scenario. Wait, I see a question come in. I find that after a tenant who has a pet moves out, I have a hard time re-renting because the prospect says he smells a pet odor. I understand that. I'm going to teach you some secrets, okay? Tile floors and wood floors work wonders, okay? I know they can be a pain in the rear sometimes, but yeah, they hold up over time better than carpeting. So let's talk about animals and pets, okay? Just please hear what I'm trying to tell you. And I know you're gonna say she's crazy, but listen to me. Stop advertising no pets. Just stop doing it, okay? Accept pets, welcome them in. Here's my theory. Can pets become a nuisance? Yes, so can emotional support animals. So can a caregiver. We can make them get rid of a nuisance. Doesn't matter if it's an emotional support animal. Doesn't matter if it's a caregiver that's there to provide care for somebody that's disabled, failing health, whatever. You can still get rid of a nuisance. Is this thing on? You guys paying attention? Just because you allow a pet or an animal there doesn't mean they can start barking, lunging, striking, becoming a nuisance in your community. They still have to pick up the poop. Sorry. They still have to collect the feces. It's part of the responsibility of being an owner, whether it be an animal or a pet. They still are responsible for damages that that animal does, okay? Stop thinking of an emotional support animal or a therapy animal or a service animal or a comfort animal as a pet. It's not. The definitions from the American Disabilities Act define it as the same as someone that's required to use a wheelchair. So if ADA law says that they treat an emotional support animal the same way they treat someone that uses a wheelchair, we may want to consider our approach and how we deal with it. I mean, think of it this way. Every time somebody hands you a piece of paper or they say, I have an emotional support animal, you need to automatically think of that as a wheelchair, not as an animal. Okay, help me help you. Think of it as a wheelchair. Can I charge somebody with a wheelchair additional rent for using that wheelchair? No. Can I charge somebody an additional security deposit because they have a wheelchair? No. Can I have special rules for them because they have a wheelchair? No. The same rules apply with an emotional support animal. The same laws that govern to protect them are already in place with ADA. Okay? So stop thinking of it as an emotional support animal, a therapy animal, a comfort animal, a blah, 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 blah. It is a wheelchair. And you will answer all of your own questions because it's now an assistive device for a disabled person, like a hearing aid, like crutches, like a wheelchair. Okay. How could a wheelchair become a nuisance? If someone, just saying, hooked up sirens and lights to their wheelchair, so every time it rolled forward, it made this atrocious noise, a wheelchair could become a nuisance. And we could tell the disabled person, you can't use that wheelchair. It's affecting the right to quiet enjoyment. We're not telling you you can't use a wheelchair. We're telling you you can't use that wheelchair. It's disrupting the right of quiet enjoyment for neighboring residents. That wheelchair might be a dog. Make sense? It can't make noise. It can't disrupt other neighboring residents. It can't affect the right to quiet enjoyment. So if a wheelchair had all these sirens and horns and lights stuck to it that made all this noise every time it rolled through the community, you could ask them to exchange it for a different wheelchair, one that didn't disrupt the right to quiet enjoyment. Same thing happens with an emotional support animal. It can't sit there and bark all day. It can't lunge, strike, bite, maul, maim. I mean, we don't know what the animal is, so I'm giving a lot of other terms here. I mean, come on, let's face it. As long as it's okay with the city, the county, the state, and federal Fish and Game and Wildlife, you have to allow it. You have to. So even if you don't like snakes and it's a snake, you are most likely going to have to allow it at the property. Okay? Deep breath. Stop thinking of it as an animal when they start saying emotional support animal, therapy animal, service animal. Can you ask questions? Yes. But does it matter what the answers are? And this is me talking to you. Do you really want to challenge fair housing and the ADA? How deep are your pockets? Here's what I can tell you. Currently, the federal government, not the state government, the federal government is working on a database or a system to put these doctor's notes, emotional support letters, and create a database. They have not yet. Until they do, this isn't going to work. It's a free range. Let me explain to you how free range it is. You manage investment property for a living, correct? Yes, you do. Okay. You get woken up in the middle of the night to see if you handled something properly or did something right or said something right or didn't say something wrong. That's work-related stress, just saying. Because I'm a licensed real estate broker, I'm a professional in the industry, aware of your medical condition and your need for an animal. I could write the note. It doesn't have to come from a doctor. It can come from a life coach, a therapist, a priest, a preacher, a real estate broker. It has to come from a professional in the industry, aware of your need and your medical condition. See how easy that was? Okay, this isn't our fight to fight, you guys. If you say, we don't allow emotional support animals in our community, I could tell you right now that lawsuit costs you about $78,000 to settle out of court. $78,000. Ouch. ADA has big teeth. We don't want to play with them, okay? Err on the side of caution. They realize that this has become a free-for-all. And it's like the wild, wild west. They're going to now start to try to do something about it. That takes time with our government. God, it could take years. God only knows. But know that something's coming about. It is not going to happen in a rapid fashion. I don't see bills sitting there waiting to pass, but they are starting to address it. They do understand it's become a problem. Here's something else I can tell you. If a tenant moves out of a property and they used a wheelchair and they did damage to the walls, the door frames, I'm just talking out loud, that's still considered tenant caused damage, and the tenant's still responsible to pay for that damage caused by their wheelchair. Same thing applies to an emotional support animal. The tenant is still responsible for damages. They're still responsible for upkeep. Okay? They can't just let the emotional support animal poop all over the place and not clean it up because they're disabled. It doesn't work that way. Okay? So stop thinking of it as an animal and start looking at it as a wheelchair, and you will answer your own questions. It does wonders. Trust me. It's an easier way to look at the situation. When somebody hands me their emotional support animal letter, do you know what I say now? Thank you. Additional documentation may be required. That's it. If you missed the very beginning, I see that, Melanie, and I'll go back through the questions right now. Don't worry, you guys, these are all recorded and put up on my YouTube channel, so you can revisit them if you want to, okay? You can always revisit on my YouTube channel. I see a lot of questions, so let's go through this. What if a tenant requests a comfort animal and then moves out? Is there a company that can remove all the pet odors? Can I charge the tenant for this service after a 6-year or longer tenancy? Damage, that's damage. Pet odor is damage. Pull up the carpeting, look at this, at the padding. Do you have to reseal the subfloor? Do you have to change the padding? Can you clean the carpet backing? Or is it so caked with urine and pet fur that you have to replace it? You can't make that decision, but your carpet professional can. Make sure you take photos of the damage. As you're pulling things up, take additional photos. I've even had people keep a sample of the carpet and of the padding in a Ziploc bag to show in court later. I even remember warning a judge, please don't open that in this courtroom. The smell is atrocious. So little things that you can do, you guys. I mean, I had a whole drawer in my office called things found in toilets, okay? Because it's really hard to dispute a legal matter when you're standing there holding the angel that they had to break the toilet to get out of because it fell in the toilet while it was being flushed, and it's jammed in there that they have to break the toilet to get it out. Those are things you want to keep. That's good property management there. If you have a sample that you can use in a court battle later down the road, by all means, document it. I put them in Ziploc bags, put the address, the date, the tenant's name on it, so I can re-reference it if I need to. I put a note on the file. Angel found in toilet that had to be broken open is in the what was found in toilets drawer. Okay, I know I'm weird, but I've used it. It works. Help me help you. Okay, we talked about how a wheelchair can be a nuisance, and I just tried to give an example of them putting horns and sirens and lights to it, and I was using a wheelchair versus a dog. Dogs usually bark all day. Sometimes they get an emotional support animal for their emotional support animal because that's kind of how that goes. If they have puppies, those puppies are not emotional support animals. Those puppies are a problem. That would do a 3-day curable breach of covenant. And you could start legal process if your attorney says that you can do so. Emotional support animals, therapy animals, things like that, they shouldn't be breeding, okay? They shouldn't be. Can they? Yes, but what are you gonna say? All 9 puppies are my new emotional support animal? It ain't gonna fly. So puppies are usually a problem, so are kittens. If you have that, contact your attorney, your legal counsel, so they can point you in the right direction. I'm sorry they missed the very beginning, needing to be signed by a real estate broker professional. Oh, Melanie, let me go backwards. And like I said, you can always rewatch these on my YouTube channel. But to answer your question, what I was saying is, as a real estate broker, I'm a real estate broker in the state of California. Therefore, I'm a licensed professional. If you manage investment property, I know you get woken up in the middle of the night to see if you handled everything wrong. It's work-related stress. Therefore, I am aware of your medical condition and your need for an emotional support animal. I can write you a note. So if I can write you a note, I can write your tenant a note. Do you see how easy that works? So if it's so easy to get this note, stop questioning it. That was my point. I can write the note for you. You know, it's very easy to obtain the notes. There's no national database. There's no way to find out if it's legitimate or not. And if you challenge it, it could be considered discrimination. So let a third-party company do that for you. They are out there. There's one in particular that does pet screening for emotional supports animals. And I just try to call them animals because, listen to me, you have a pet, and I'm going to go back into why you should allow pets at your property. Because most of you that have problems with emotional support animals, and I'm just going to call them the difference between animals and pets. And the reason why is we have emotional support animal, therapy animal, guide animal. I mean, all of those things that are protected under the ADA all have animal behind them and never pet. Nobody ever has an emotional support pet. Okay, a pet is a pet is a pet all day long. There are no rules except for whatever your city municipality has. So example, code enforcement may say that you can only have 2 dogs and 1 cat per household in the city you're in. That is their rule. You can now enforce their rule. So your tenant cannot have more than 2 dogs and 1 cat per unit per the city's law. If you break the city's law, who's the city coming after? You, the landlord, right? You can't have any rules. You can only follow the rules that govern you. So if you live in a city that has a leash law, guess what? Your emotional support animals now have to abide by the leash law. It's not your rule, it's the city's rule. You can't have any rules. See how that worked? Okay, so you got to reach out to your cities to find out what the rules are. How many animals are allowed per household? Some of them have a weight limit, 10 pounds, no more than a 20-pound dog in a multifamily community. Okay, some cities don't allow pit bulls. Riverside City is one of them. Okay, they don't allow them. So following the city's rule, you can't have any. The city says, because who's going to get that fine? Sorry, I'm not comfortable on the chair I'm sitting on, so I have to keep readjusting. I'm sorry. I realized I'm getting super close to the camera. It must look weird. Sorry, squirrel. Thought I'd explain myself. Okay, so let me go back. Can they have more than 1 support animal? Yes, but they have to have more than 1 doctor's note. So in other words, they can have service animals that provide a service, like they go get my shoes for me and bring them to me. A service animal provides a service. A lot of times people say, oh, I have a service animal, and you can ask them, what service does the animal perform? I mean, does it notify you when your blood sugar is getting low? Does it notify you before you have a seizure? Does it go get your shoes for you? Does it open the front door? Does it alert you if somebody's ringing the doorbell? I mean, there's a lot of things a service animal can do. It provides a service. So if they say they have a service animal, you can always ask them, what service does it provide? But here's the reality. If they give you an answer, you can't ask anything further. Remember HIPAA laws, privacy acts? There's a lot of things you have to be careful for. So you can ask, how many animals do you have? And they have to tell you. That's a question you can ask. Do you have a note for each one of them? Do they perform a different service? An emotional support animal is emotional support. No, you can ask what service the animal performs, hands down. Fair housing says that we can ask, but that's all you can ask. So my question becomes, why ask the question? The more you start asking questions, the more you're going to get yourself in trouble, and you may ask something you're not supposed to. So why risk it? That becomes my question. Can they have more than one support pet? Yes, they have to have more than one note. See how that worked? How many emotional support animals can an individual have? It depends on how many notes they have and what the rule in your city is. Okay, if they say there's only 2 dogs and 1 cat allowed per household, guess what? That's the law. So even if they cry, I need 16 emotional support cats. City says they can only have 2 dogs and 1 cat per household. So in order to comply with the city's rule, they can only have 1 cat. See how that worked? Not your rule. It's the city's rule. So you need to call the city that the municipality, the city that the property is located in. If you don't get the answers you want there, you need to call the county and see if they have restrictions. And if you don't get the answers you want there, you need to contact the state and see what the state's rules are. Okay, like ferrets are not allowed in the state of California. Okay, that's what I'm talking about there. You with me? Sugar gliders are not allowed in the state of California. You following me? And then you can go to wildlife, fish and game, federal wildlife. I mean, come on, somebody's going to try to move a Bengal tiger into an apartment community, or a walrus that's going to take up all the pool time. It's just the reality. Until somebody pushes this, and people have been pushing it really far, we're not going to get laws written about it. But it is becoming a battle. And that's why I want to talk to you about allowing pets in the property. Okay, because there's another caveat to this that nobody thinks about and nobody talks about. And I'm here to wake you guys up. Hello. You can absolutely ask what service the animal performs, Val, if I didn't say that already. Okay, I'm going to turn off my things now so I can see me and talk to you guys. Okay, so I lost my train of thought. It happens a lot. I'm sorry. I'm getting older, I guess, and I don't want to admit that. So emotional support animals, therapy animals, service animals, guide animals, they all fall under the animal category. Here's why I want you to advertise that you want pets, okay? I'm a pet owner, okay? Could I get a note from saying that my pet is an emotional support animal? Sure, anybody can. You can go on Amazon. It costs about $12. Okay. When you advertise no pets, what you're doing is you're telling me, somebody like me, a person like me, that my pet is not allowed in that property. You're also telling me you don't want my money. When you advertise no pets, you are telling an honest, forthcoming pet owner that you don't want their additional money every month. Because for a pet, you can ask for an additional security deposit. You can ask for additional rent every month. We have $100 a month pet fee. Somebody like me is going to say $100 for my pet a month, no problem. They're a member of my family. I have no problem paying for them. You want my money. Okay? When you advertise no pets, all you're saying is that honest person that says, I have a pet and I'll pay extra money. It's a member of my family. I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll pay the higher deposit. I take care of my pet. My pet is my life. You're telling them by saying no pets that you don't want their money. And all they're going to do then is get on Amazon, print out a certificate for $12, hand it to you, bring their pet in anyway, and now you get no money. See how that worked? By advertising no pets, you're advertising that you don't want additional funds. They're just going to bring them in anyway. Does that make sense to you guys? I have people that are try to rent all the time. They tell me, Patty, I can't find anything. Well, why can't you find anything? Well, we have a dog and a cat and everything is no pets. Hello, is this thing on? Are you guys paying attention to me? If you advertise that you accept pets, you're going to keep that honest pet owner honest, and they will pay extra money every month for that pet. And at some point, this is me talking to you, that pet is going to pass away, move on, run away, who knows? And they're going to come to you and say, I don't have my pet anymore. I need a reduction. No problem. We won't charge you pet rent starting next month until you get a new pet. That was easy. As far as refunding them their security deposit, it was an additional deposit, and deposits are allocated when the property is vacated. In other words, we will be more than happy to give you back your deposit once you vacate the unit. See how that worked? See how it all kind of comes together? Okay. Everybody paying attention, everybody following the rules, okay? Everybody understanding what I'm trying to tell you. If we change the way we think, we're not going to be in this frivolous lawsuits regarding ADA or having fair housing come down on us because we're not handling something properly. We're erring on the side of caution, knowing what we're up against and letting the cards fall where they do. But please, I beg you, advertise pets accepted. Pet-friendly property. Start advertising that, because otherwise they're just going to bring the animals in and we're going to have a bigger problem. Okay, you guys give me 2 seconds, okay? Sorry, I had to yell and holler at the children that are playing and I didn't want you to hear me. I can hear them upstairs and they're getting boisterous. Okay, I see another question. Let's see what this is about. Vaccination for emotional support animals. What's your city say? Because you can't have any rules. In other words, does your city require that all animals they know the difference between calling them a pet, must be vaccinated? Because if that's the case, then that's the city's rule and you can help enforce it. Because if there's a violation of the city's rule, who gets the fine? That's right, the landlord. So you can implement the city's rules or the county's rules, but you can't have any rules. So you can't say that the animal must be on a leash at all times if in fact the city doesn't have a leash law. Paying attention? Okay, that's how a lot of these things, these lawsuits regarding these animals come about, is landlords try to put rules in there. They must be vaccinated, they must be, you can't have any rules. You can only help enforce the city's rules, the county's rules, the state rules, the federal rules, okay? Just trying to plant that seed and let that sit there. You can't have any rules or you're discriminating against someone with a disability. Just like saying, I'm not going to rent to you. You're in a wheelchair. Ouch. That got expensive quickly, right? Okay. Just want to make sure everybody's paying attention. Can you deduct pet damage from the other security deposit, or does it have to be from a pet deposit? Hold on. I'm going to help you here with something solid for the rest of your career. Stop defining what a deposit is for. California state law says that for a furnished apartment, we can charge, and there's a caveat here, so please pay attention, we can charge 3 times the amount of the rent on a furnished unit for a security deposit. So fully furnished units, we can charge 3 times the amount of the rent on a fully furnished unit. 2 times on a vacant unit. If they're active military, we can charge 1 times the rent as a deposit for someone that is active military, just so you know. Those are the cap amounts for state law. We can't go over those or we're in violation of state law. So when you say the security deposit for the property is $1,500 and we have an additional pet deposit of $500, you just took a $2,000 security deposit. But where you messed up is by calling it a pet deposit. Just call it an additional deposit. If you call it a pet deposit, it can only be used for the pet. So if the pet doesn't cause any damage, but the tenants spray paint, screw you, property manager all over the walls, you still have to refund this $500 because the pet didn't do any damage. Even though they owe you money for the rest of the damages done. See how that worked? Stop defining. There's an additional $50 deposit for key fobs. No, it's just an additional deposit. If they turn in the key fobs and destroy the unit, you have to give them back their key fob deposit because you defined it as a deposit for that. Okay? You with me? So stop calling it a key deposit, a pet deposit, a this deposit, and just lump it all together and call it an additional deposit. And don't go over what the state law is. Okay? If we don't go over what the state law is and we just call it a deposit, then it's allocated when the tenant vacates, not when the pet dies or the key systems change. Okay, so it's a better business practice for you to just call it an additional deposit and lump it all together. That is the best business practice, hands down. Okay, stop defining what the deposit is for. It's a bad business practice. Okay, hang on. Can you deduct pet damage from the other security deposit, or does it have to be from the pet deposit? I just kind of explained that so we don't define pet deposit and lump it all together, because then we can use it for whatever we want. We charge $150 pet fee, not pet rent. Okay, is it $150 a month or is it just a one-time fee? Because if you call it rent, it can be reoccurring where you're charging them pet rent every month. So if a tenant paid, it's a one-time fee. Okay, so you're charging a fee for $150 for the lifetime of their tenancy to have that pet there. That's not additional deposit, but I would do it as a reoccurring rent. So they're paying an additional rent for that pet being there. You'll have more residual income and it'll affect your ROI. Return on investment. Sorry, sometimes the property manager in me kicks in. But if you charge it as a pet rent, and we're seeing anywhere from $50 to $300 of a monthly fee of pet rent, it depends on where you are, what the property is, supply and demand. I mean, come on, you guys, I don't need to tell you this. I love that you think everyone here should know what ROI is. I know some people don't. ROI is the return on investment, just so everybody understands, sorry. But it'll also help your operating expenses if you're dealing with a multifamily community where you're charging $150 flat no matter what they bring in, okay? See, you're charging a pet fee. That's where it becomes questionable. A fee is something that's non-refundable, but it's also not necessarily reoccurrent. If you call it pet rent and do $50, and I'm not trying to scare you, but if you do $50 and you do that monthly, you're going to get a lot more money than if you just charge a flat $150 pet fee every time they bring a pet in. But that could get convoluted, because if the pet dies and they bring in a new pet, they're going to tell you they already paid the $150 pet fee. It's up to a judge to determine in a court argument, whereas pet rent is pet rent. Might be a better business practice for you to call it rent, make it a reoccurring charge instead of a flat fee. Where can we find these rules for the city of San Diego? Call animal control. That makes it easy. Okay. Animal control in the city that governs you. Okay. That is your municipality. That is who's going to write you the damn ticket if that animal does something they're not supposed to do, like bites someone. Just saying. They're going to come after you. So it's going to be the city animal control. And then if that isn't a city animal control, then you need to look at county animal control. And I say that because some cities don't have their own animal control. The county does it. So you need to check with them to find out what their rules are. Animal control has that. If additional deposit pushes it more than double the rent, you can't do it. You can, by law, only take double the rent on a vacant unit or triple the rent on a fully furnished unit. What if the tenant insists on knowing what the additional deposit is for? It's just an additional deposit. It's required. We have an additional $50 deposit that's required for keys. It's an additional deposit. So, example, if you are telling them your deposit's going to be $1,500 and they go, oh, well, I have a pet. And you say, okay, well, we collect an additional deposit for pets and that deposit amounts $500 per pet. So your total move-in deposit, security deposit on this property is going to be $2,000. Okay. It just helps keep everything flowing and in the right order, if you will. Okay. It just keeps everything moving and flowing. Just call it an additional deposit is required, because then it falls under the security deposit under the property, and that's not allocated or given back to the tenant until the unit's vacated. Wink, wink, wink. So you don't want them to come to you and go, my dog died. I need my $500 security deposit back or pet deposit back. Deposits are allocated when the property is vacated. See how that worked? You don't have to give them the $500 back. So don't call it a pet deposit. Should you just say the deposit is $2,000 plus? Yes, you should say that the total move-in deposit would be $2,000. But a way to say that when you're telling someone, hi, how much is the security deposit? Hang on, I'm letting people in, you guys. Sometimes we get kicked out and we gotta let them back in. So sometimes people say, hi, how much is your deposit? Well, my deposit's $1,500. Do you have an additional deposit for pets? Yes, we do require an additional deposit for pets. How many pets do you have? What kind of pets are they? I mean, this is your chance to start asking, because remember, when it comes to pets, there are no rules. You could say that you only will take papered pink poodles at your property, and they have to be pink. Can't discriminate against a pet. Okay, you guys paying attention? The only rules that govern us are whatever the city has in place. Okay, so you need to find out what the rules are in your city as far as animal control goes. How many pets do they allow? How many animals do they allow per unit? Do they have a limit or a size restriction on multifamily communities where they don't allow pets over 30 pounds in a multifamily community? That's not your rule. That's the city's rule. And it's very important that you make sure that you explain to that person on the phone or in front of you, well, the city has a rule here, and that rule with the city is blah, 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 blah. The city requires, the city has a limit. The city says, okay, it's not your rule. You can't have any. Not when it comes to animals. You can have rules when it comes to pets. And there are no rules except whatever the city has in place, okay? So you could tell people, I only want papered chihuahuas for pets. And they're gonna bring in whatever pet they want and hand you the emotional support paperwork saying it's an emotional support animal. And there's gonna be nothing you can do. No rent you can charge, no deposit you can up. So stop doing it. Just take the friendly people that want to pay, the responsible pet owner, if you will, that has no problem paying an additional deposit or additional rent because that pet is a member of their family. Like mine, right now, he's at my feet right here. Sprawled out on the floor trying to stay cool. But it's that easy. When you guys advertise no pets, they're still going to come look at your property. They're just going to call it an emotional support animal, know that you can't charge them additional rent, nor can you do anything about it. But thanks for playing the game. Deep breath. Okay, so does everybody got the idea between emotional support animals and pets? Okay, we want to advertise pet-friendly property. Yes, are they responsible to pay for damages? Absolutely, whether it's the pet or an emotional support animal. It's like a wheelchair. They still have to pay for the walls they scuffed up and the door frames they bashed in. They still have to pay for damages. They still have to clean up the mess. If they don't want to clean up their poop, if they don't want to clean up the feces, you can serve them a 3-day curable breach of covenant that they need to clean up after their emotional support animal. It's that easy. Okay. If that dog is barking, you serve them a 3-day curable breach of covenant that they're disrupting the right of quiet enjoyment to neighboring residents. And maybe they need to get rid of that emotional support animal and exchange it for a different one. Don't do that by yourself. Have your legal counsel help you. It's a very tricky situation, but it is possible. So if you have a dog that's barking, nipping, striking, lunging, biting, it's disrupting the right of neighboring residents, okay? You can tell them, and I don't suggest you do this on your own. You need your legal counsel to help you just because we are talking about the ADA here and they have the biggest teeth. We don't want to get bit by them, okay? But you do have the power to tell them that they have to exchange that emotional support animal for a different one that doesn't disrupt the right of quiet enjoyment for neighboring residents. The same thing applies to a caregiver. They have that nasty, mean, rude caregiver that's always bitching and fighting and causing a ruckus. That caregiver is a nuisance and is disrupting the right to quiet enjoyment for neighboring residents. And we are now requesting that you get rid of that caregiver and exchange it for a different one. Yes, you do have that power, but you need to approach that carefully with kid gloves, if you will. In other words, have your legal counsel help you. Because if you do it wrong, you could get sued. It could be considered discrimination. So if you're telling them that they have to get rid of an animal, not a pet, an animal or a caregiver, just so you understand, you do have that capability. You're welcome. A lot of people think they're just stuck with the problem. No, it's not how that works. Okay, I saw another question come through. So standard deposit plus additional deposit can't exceed double the rent. Bingo, bingo. On a vacant unit. On a fully furnished unit, it can't be more than triple the rent. And if they're active duty military, 1 times the amount of the rent. You got it. Because active duty military is a protected class, and that just happened in California this past year. So lots of changes in the laws, but and the government is talking about making a database. What will that do? Let's be honest. Let's talk about what that'll do really quick. In the event that the government steps in, makes people register their emotional support animals and tries to filter out the people abusing the system, it's going to inundate our shelters with unwanted pets. Let's face it, It's what's going to happen. It's sad. It has to happen in order for there to be some regulation. So it's not a free for all. So people like me can't write you a note. We have to do something. It is a problem. They have acknowledged it as a problem, not in our state, but across the nation. Okay. This is an issue across the nation. So all of us that are fed up and pissed off because we're sick of it, there will be something done about it. That they know it's a problem. They are discussing it. What that will be, I don't know. I don't see any bills yet. I don't see anything sitting on the horizon, but it's coming. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of when, not if. Okay. But until then, err on the side of caution. ADA has really big teeth. Discrimination is no joke. Be cautious. The best thing you can do is be safe. And the best way you can protect yourself from a financial standpoint is start advertising that you're a pet-friendly community, because you want the people that are honest pet owners to give you the extra money every month. You're welcome. Are you paying attention? Hold on, I saw something about insurance. Let's talk about that. Is there renter's insurance that covers pet damage, which includes biting the mailman, etc.? Yes. You can require that you have pet insurance, okay, on pets. You can ask to be additional insured on the policy. That way you know if it's going to be canceled. If they won't list you as additional insured, make sure you're also listed as an interested party. Some insurance companies will not list the landlord as additional insured, but they will list them as an interested party. That notifies you if the policy is going to be canceled or there's changes made to the policy. That's all. But you can't file a claim. If you're additionally insured, you can file a claim. As far as them biting the mailman, a pet, let me tell you, that convolutes a whole bunch of things to happen at the same time. Number one, I would serve the tenant with a 3-day get out, quit notice, not a curable, because your pet bit someone and that caused a liability for the owner. So if I have an emotional support animal or a pet that bites someone, that is a 3-day get out. You can't fix this. You gotta go. Bye-bye. Okay. Doesn't matter if it's an emotional support animal, a therapy animal, a service animal, a pet, they can't bite someone. That puts all the liability on the landlord. And if you leave them there and say, oh, they did it just an accident, you know, that little girl kind of provoked them. Then if he bites someone a second time, that's completely yours. You're going to eat that. They're going to sue the pants off of you because now you didn't do anything about it the first time. And now we have a second occurrence. See how that worked? So somebody's going to sue the pants off of you the second time that dog bites someone. The first time it happens, you have grounds to terminate the tenancy. Do it. Otherwise, it just leaves your liability and exposure completely open for a second time. It's kind of like a tenant with an eviction record. If they know how to do it once, they'll do it again. We don't rent to those people. If the dog bites somebody once, now they know how to do it, they'll do it again. Just saying. I would like a copy of the 3-day get out form. Thank you. Val, that is called an incurable breach of covenant, is a 3-day notice to quit. And your apartment association and or your legal counsel can provide those to you. I don't provide notices, just so everybody's aware. I can tell you how to fill them out, but it causes me, if I provide notices, then I have to have an attorney. Does that make sense? I'm not paying an attorney. I'm sorry, you guys. Use your apartment association. They have the bomb notices. They work great. Either that or your legal counsel. I don't provide documents, but you could find it on the internet. I know you can. It's a 3-day incurable breach of covenant. It's also known as a 3-day notice to quit. See how it didn't say cure or quit? It just says 3-day notice to quit. Same thing. Okay. And it has to be written specifically. I don't think that I would attempt to write that without legal counsel's guidance. The reason being is you're telling somebody you can't fix this, you got to get out. The court doesn't like that, just so you know. The courts don't like that they can't fix it and they just got to get out. So you better have enough teeth in that, and it better be written properly so that a judge goes, oh yeah, they got to go. Their dog bit someone. Oh yeah, they got to go. They committed a crime on the property. Oh yeah, they got to go. They've had 15 curable breach of covenants over the last 6 months, and they're still creating a nuisance at the property. They got to go. You see what I mean? It's got to be written specifically with the right amount of teeth so that your case is successful. That's what I'm trying to say. And I keep fidgeting on this stool. I won't ever sit on it again because I've been fidgeting all day. Let me see what other questions are coming in. I was joking about the name. I got you. Also, just so you guys all know, the 3-day kick out notice, 357 or a 45 caliber firearm works well too, but they're still not legal. J Tour, what is that 8-8 you mentioned? Is it a rule? Remind me what I'm talking about, Jay. What is that 8-8 you mentioned? Is that a rule? I don't know what you're talking about. Help me understand. Ask me the question a different way. Because I don't know. Did I say something about an 8-8? Maybe it was a typo. Don't know. Does anybody have any other questions or anything that they want me to talk about before we end today? That is my dog snorting and snarling in the background. Bugsy, please stop. All these people can hear you right now. I'm sorry. He's making himself comfortable on the floor. Poor old man. He's snorting. Okay. Did anyone get rent relief yet? Ha ha. I know people are asking, where's the money? April, are you on here? I don't know if April's on. I gotta look. Yes, April is getting checks from rent relief. I had a conversation with her last week. So the money's coming, you guys. If you haven't gotten it already, it's coming. I don't see April on. So let me check really quick. April, where are you? April. April is not on. If she is on, she's on via phone. But yes, money is starting to run in from the programs. So we are starting to see some of the rent relief coming in. For those of you that have tenants that don't want the government in their business, we won one with the recent Assembly Bill 832. I'm sorry, it's a Senate bill, not an Assembly Bill. 832 that is going to go ahead and allow 100% of the rents. So no more 80-20. We don't have to give away 20%. It's now 100%. And in the event that we as landlords apply for the funds, we can tell the tenant that they need to apply. They have 20 days. If they don't apply in 20 days, we can now start eviction against them on day 21. We're winning. We're winning. One step at a time, we're winning. I saw another question come by. Hang on. No news on HDIC refunding. Yes, we got some rent relief in Santa Monica. Yay! Money is coming in. I know April's collected quite a bit of it, but she is extremely diligent on collecting. And what I mean by extremely diligent is for her tenants that may have had a language barrier or didn't seem too enthused with applying. She actually had the on-site managers go meet in the middle of the courtyard with one tenant at a time with a mask 6 feet away and a laptop, entering their information and helping them apply online. So they went the extra step, held hands with the tenant and said, let me help you. You come to me, you give me the information, I'll enter it on the website. I'm here to help you. So 6 feet away with masks in the middle of the courtyard and a laptop, and bam, this girl's up to $90,000 collected during the pandemic period. Wow. 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 So yes, money is coming. As far as them reallocating funds to HDICLA, I didn't hear anything about that yet. San Diego still has an abundance of funds. Some areas were hit harder than others. So I can only assume it makes sense. So they might not do it, but to me, it makes sense for them to pool together the money that wasn't used and then hit the areas that were heaviest hit or that ran out of money and redistribute. It makes sense to me that that should be done. I don't know that our government will see things the way that I see things. It just makes sense. So why not do it, right? Help the people that need the help. The people that don't need the help, let's leave them alone. I mean, hello. I saw something else come through. Let me see what that is. If we haven't checked for pets for years and we serve a 24-hour notice to enter and find multiple pets, can we charge pet rent from there? That depends. And let's talk about that, okay? If you haven't checked for pets for years and you serve a 24-hour notice to enter, you're going to want to find everything they're doing wrong, not just the pets, okay? And then when it comes to the pet, you can let them know you have an unauthorized pet. Let's talk about that. You can either pay pet rent and an additional deposit and we can keep the pet here, or you can get rid of the pet because it's not allowed. See how that worked? So you can give them options to correct is they can fill out a pet agreement, pay an additional pet deposit and pet rent in order to keep the animal there, or they can get rid of the animal. They have 3 days. It's a 3-day curable breach of covenant. And you want to find everything that they're doing wrong if you're going to go, because here's me talking to you. Don't ever, and this is because I worked at a law firm for 5 years. Okay, you guys, for those of you that don't know, I worked for Fast Eviction Service for 5 years, and they are an attorney owned and operated law firm. Okay. Here's what I learned while I was there. And I learned a lot while I was there. Trust me, that's why I went to go work for a law firm. So I had a better understanding of the law and how the law works. Don't ever evict somebody, ever, for an unauthorized pet. Okay. I don't have any cookies down here. My dog's getting a little feisty. I'm sorry. And I talk with my hands, so he thinks I'm talking to him because he has a hearing problem now. So we use a lot of hand signals. So let me just hold my hand so he doesn't think I'm trying to tell him it's time to go outside or something. April has arrived. April, we want to talk about the money, but give me a minute, okay? And now he's being boisterous. I apologize. So just to rewind and pull me back, let's go backwards. If you haven't checked, don't ever evict for an unauthorized pet. That shouldn't be the only cause of your eviction. Stop. The reason being is they're going to wait until the court date and they're going to show up in court. And then in court, they're going to produce the doctor's note saying it's an emotional support animal. So now you've lost your time and your money. Case dismissed, go home. I've seen it happen. If You have modifications to the property without written consent of the landlord by installing a Ring doorbell system. Modifications to the property without written consent of the landlord by installing a flat screen TV to the wall. You're welcome. Painting, trash and debris in the yard, unauthorized pets. It's just one more thing for the attorney to fire off in an eviction case, but don't let that be your only reason. It is a great business practice for you to list everything that they're doing wrong, because your idea of what should be the straw that broke the camel's back, my idea of what should be the straw that broke the camel's back, the attorney's idea of what would be the straw that broke the camel's back, and the judge's idea of what would be the straw that broke the camel's back are all different. So if we only list one or two things on that notice and they provide a note to get this one taken away and that one doesn't matter, case dismissed, go home. You wasted your time and your money. They're still living there. Now what? Okay. We want to give them a long laundry list of everything that they're doing wrong so that the attorney can fire off those ducks. Okay. Every violation, not just that unauthorized pet. Remember, it's really easy for them to go find a real estate agent and get a note saying it's an emotional sport animal. Or to get on Amazon and pay $12 and get a certificate with a little ID and the pet's photo printed on it. Okay, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Please, I can't push that enough. Could you add that as an additional thing? Yes, but don't make that be your only thing. It's too easy for them to get out of it. Okay, I'm just saying. I've seen it happen way too many times. Don't make the same mistake other people make. That's why we do this together, so that we're not following history and making bad choices. Okay. All right. April, we're getting questions about money. Are you getting more money coming through the program? You can unmute yourself and talk to us. Do you have an update?
Hey, Patty.
Hey, girl.
Hi. So I was contacted this week in regards to the additional balances, which is the 100% if they already received 80%.
So the 20% difference.
Correct.
I got you. Okay.
So they're sending out emails and it's kind of confusing because it makes it seem like they are getting, let's just say you got approved for $5,000. The tenant got approved for $5,000. They're sending out the email telling them they got approved for $5,000, but we already received 80% of that $5,000. So you're not getting an additional $5,000. You're only getting the remaining 20%.
Okay, hold on a minute. So if in fact, and I'm trying to follow you because I'm confused by what you just said. So let's say you're owed $20,000 and I'm just throwing out a number. And that is to the 80%. And you should get another $5,000 for the 20%. And you're saying that they're paying just that additional, help me understand, rephrase what you said and say it again.
I'm just going to read like an example email that I received so that you guys can understand it. And so it says a California COVID-19 rent relief program tenant application has been approved. A payment request of $5,450 has been approved and payment will be dispersed within 7 to 10 business days to you on behalf of your tenant. Well, my tenant, I already received payment of $4,360. So I'm only expecting $1,090, not $5,450. So I was confused thinking the tenant was approved for an additional $5,450, but that's not the case.
Are they just adding the 90-day extension of rent on those funds?
I don't know.
See if there's 3 months more of rent on there. Because that would make sense to me, because now they're not paying to the end of July anymore. I'm sorry, the end of June anymore. Now they're paying to the end of September.
Yeah, so they send you a breakdown at the end of the email and tells you exactly what they're paying. So for this particular tenant, it was September 2020 all the way until March of 2021. So my question to them, I had to call them, is because this tenant is still delinquent and hasn't paid for April, May, June, July, and she told me she won't be paying in August. They will probably have to reapply after this case has been closed, because they won't approve additional funds for their existing account. They would have to open a new application.
God love the government, right?
Right?
They're not going to make this easy, you guys. This isn't an easy process. April knows, she's been dealing with it for quite some time.
I actually asked if I could just send them an updated ledger and they can just add it on to the amount that I'm going to receive in 7 to 10 days, but they told me, no, sorry, we can't do that.
and I understand why they can't do that, because now other people can apply while you're in this process to this thing and not to the next, and you're going to have to wait, and they're hoping they run out of money by then. I get it. It makes sense. What they're doing makes sense.
Yep.
It's kind of like an insurance company. Remember, their goal is not to pay you. Same thing with the government. But no, it makes sense what you're saying, and I could see how it could be challenging, and that they only went to your application period. Now they extended the time, but you're going to have to reapply.
Right.
And you can't reapply until this case is closed, correct?
Right.
Ah, there's the caveat. There's always a caveat. Melanie says, we have received online payments for Santa Monica, but in strange breakdowns and not in full yet. I'm just looking at the bank statement now. April, you know anything about that?
Let me see, receipts. So their breakdowns are not going to match what the ledger that you sent, because they're going to go based off of what the tenant submitted. So if the tenant said they gave you $500 in August of last year and you put down, let's just say you put it towards a past due balance, so you didn't record it correctly, they're going to go by what the tenant says.
Makes sense. For those of you that haven't applied yet or need to reapply, April and I have a tip and trick for you. Part of the COVID Tenant Protection Act, in case you weren't paying attention, and this, I believe, goes back to Assembly Bill 3088, which clearly stated that during the protected pandemic period, any rents received are to be applied to those months. They can't go to a previous past due balance first. So AB 3088 has redefined how we do our accounting just for the protected pandemic period. So when you guys receive a payment from a tenant, and we always apply it to the most outstanding past due balance first, we can't do that during COVID, in case you missed that. That was AB 3088 that defined that during the protected period, we had to apply the money where it was received, and we couldn't apply it to a past due previous balance. Now, April, please remind me, was it 3088 that did that? I think it was.
Yes.
Because it wasn't Senate Bill 91. It was already in place. So yes, it was 3088 that did that. So when you guys submit a ledger to them, you got to make sure. And I told everybody, just use a columnar ledger. It's only for 16 months or so. Now it's 18 months of the pandemic protected period, but it's much easier for us to submit them a paper ledger rather than how our accounting system does it anyway. And to do it that way, you're probably in a much better position than rewriting Appfolio, Yardi, Rent Collector, whoever else you may use for your accounting software program. It would be easier to use a handwritten columnar ledger. Would you agree with that statement, April?
Yes, but I also use the portal because on our portal that we use, you can download an Excel file. So you can
Oh,
go in there and modify it. So
okay.
I just modify it to what the tenant has paid and everything like that.
I'll give you guys a great example. Yardi's accounting systems require that you close the books at the end of every month. Once you've closed those books, you can't modify anything. Okay, so it all depends on which accounting software program you use, whether or not you want to submit a column or ledger, which is handwritten even. I am better with that than you giving them the wrong information, because like April said, they're going to go with what the tenant says. So we just need to make sure we have our ducks in a row. That's scary that they're going to go with what the tenant says. But I see
it's easier to follow your 15-day notices if you're passing them out. So if you have to put your amounts on your 15-day notices, so just use those amounts. That's all you have to do.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, April.
You're welcome.
You're our money guru. Okay, Val says pet rent is tricky. If the rent is $800 or if the rent is $3,000, it seems the pet rent might be different. Yes, you're absolutely correct. I doubt the $800 would pay $20 per pet, and I doubt there are pet rent rules. There are no pet rent rules. You get to make your pet rent rules. You get to make them. That's how that works. You just have to make sure that you're following city and state guidelines. So don't let them have 12 cats if the city only says they can have 3. Okay, don't charge them rent for 12 cats. They can only have 3 legally, because how are you gonna say that you collected money? They're gonna tell you they can have them. You collected funds. Whole nother mess. So I know we're bouncing around between COVID rent monies and pet rent and pet rules, but hey, today we're trying to do both, right? So pet rent is going to be based on area. If you have a house that's renting for $800 a month, you're most likely going to charge $50 a month in pet rent. I'm just giving an example. Whereas if you have $3,200 a month, you're most likely going to charge $150 a month in pet rent. Example, you're not going to take a house, and I'm going to use this, forgive me, in San Bernardino and think that you're going to charge $150 a month pet rent when their rent's $1,000. And you're not going to take a beachfront property in Laguna and charge $50 a month in pet rent. You're going to charge $150 a month in pet rent in Laguna and $50 in San Bernardino. Okay, has to do with the area, the demographic, the median, the base income. It has a lot of factors. You don't want to price your pet rent so high that they're just going to call it an emotional support animal. Remember, the whole tip to this is to catch that honest pet owner, right? So we don't want to price it out of the market, because then they're just going to say, here's my emotional support letter. I can have it no charge. They all know it. Okay. I know it. I still would pay for my pet. He's a member of my family. He is literally laying on my feet right now, all 125 pounds of him, because he's now deaf. And that's the only way he knows when I get up, is if he's on my feet. Because then I can't walk.
Are we allowed, if there's already a pet deposit, because previously they were charging a pet deposit, if there's already a pet deposit on file, are we allowed to charge pet rent too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do something to make some changes so that you're not calling that a pet deposit and you're calling it an additional deposit.
That's what we call it now, but previously with previous management, they called it pet deposit.
I got you. So sometimes we can't, but currently you just do additional?
Yes.
Okay. And I can't tell you guys enough. I've saw so many cases come through the small claims department at Fast Eviction Service where landlords were being sued on a pet deposit. Stop calling it that. Don't call it a key deposit. Don't call it a laundry deposit. Don't call it I'm trying to think of other things that we ask for additional deposits for. Don't call it whatever that item is, an additional key deposit, additional pet deposit. An additional deposit is required. Deposit means it's refundable. Fee means it's not. Let's keep it simple. Okay. Stop defining what the deposit's for. I've seen it destroy things. Destroy. And nothing sucks worse when the tenant owes you money and you have to give money back. I mean, talk about having your face spit in. They might as well have, but again, you did that to yourself. Don't call it a specific deposit. Just say an additional deposit is required if you have a pet. An additional deposit, don't define what that deposit's for. It's just additional deposit. Everybody got that? It's so much easier to deal with because what happens is that pet dies, that emotional support animal runs away, and then they come up to you and go, I need my $500 deposit back. I'm sorry, deposits are only allocated when the unit's vacated. You have an additional deposit on your account and it's going to stay until you leave. Just makes it easier to deal with. Any attorney will tell you deposits are allocated when the property is vacated. They don't get their $500 pet deposit back because their pet ran away. Deposits are allocated, meaning distributed, once you vacate the unit, period, end of report. Do not give them back a deposit while they're still staying in the property. It doesn't make any sense. Also, for those that got additional occupants that moved in during the pandemic period, please know that applies for San Diego County and LA County, not for San Bernardino County, not for Riverside County. What am I saying? If you had unauthorized occupants come in during the protected pandemic period in LA County, you can't do anything about it until the protected period is ended. In San Bernardino County, you can serve a 3-day curable breach of covenant right now. You're welcome. Remember, the rules change by counties too. So just depends on what we got going on, what we see, and where we go from there. Yay. Anybody have anything else, or I'm going to end this for today? Okay, Melanie has a question. Hang on, Melanie. Speaking of deposits and vacating the unit, our tenant in West Hollywood, okay, just so you guys know, West Hollywood is the worst when it comes to restrictions and tenant protections. I remember it because of the Wicked Witch of the West is how I remember West Hollywood has the most restrictions. They're almost as bad as Santa Monica and the city of Los Angeles. They're bad, but I call it the Wicked Witch of the West. Okay, sorry. She broke her lease terms and left the unit, but was aware she was breaking her lease. Well, yeah, she'd have to be aware she was breaking her lease. When do we need to give the security deposit back? 20 days after the end of the lease. We do not have a new tenant yet, and we told her we would refund part of the rent if we had a tenant take over that time. Melanie, I'm going to be honest with you. It all depends on what your rental agreement says. If you don't have a specific lease break fee in your contract, then they're responsible all the way until the end of their term. So you need to do an estimated disposition of security deposit, right? Estimated at the top, and charge rent along with estimated advertising fees all the way to the end of their term. Okay. She doesn't get any money back until you re-rent. That's when you have 14 days to do your final disposition of security deposit, is once it's re-rented. Okay. I hope that helps you. So do the estimated disposition of security deposit, right? Estimated on it. It has to be done within 21 days of her vacating. And then you're going to do a final within 14 days of the new tenant moving in, charging her rent all the way until the day before the tenant moves in. Because when the new tenant moves in, that's the day their prorate starts. So the old tenant that's moving out only owes rent to the day before that. If you need more help, let me know. I see your thank you. Val, what do you got? Go to next step. So disgruntled tenant wants more security deposit after reconciliation. Okay, I need my glasses, girl. Go to next steps. So disgruntled tenant wants more security deposit after reconciliation. They must sue in small claims if we continue to disagree. Correct. Correct. What if they cashed the small check with final distribution? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's up for a judge to decide. I mean, you can try. You can try. And they can try. It is what it is. I'd love to give you the rock solid answer for that, Val, but the reality is it's not up to me to tell you. It's up to a judge to decide. And I'm assuming they want more money back for the repairs or the damages they've done to the unit. Here's what I could tell you. Pictures, 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 pictures. They speak wonders, okay? Pictures are worth 1,000 words. And you guys, when we were talking about damages a pet does, I was serious. I cut out a square of the nastiest, stinkiest carpet and padding, and I double ziplocked it, and you could still smell the stench through the bag. And I told the judge in court, I brought a sample of the carpet. I don't suggest you open it in here, Your Honor. The smell is atrocious. And the judge picked up the bag like this and said, I can smell it from here. So doing little things like that to help you guys helps tremendously. I will never forget, I went to a court case once, not to change the subject, then I'll take the last question and get you guys out of here. And I was appalled at the crap that was coming out of this chick's mouth. Okay, appalled, but I didn't say anything. One of the things I'll teach you when we talk about how to deal with court is you zip your lips, and I have to pinch my finger to remind me to shut up. It's not my turn to talk because I want to go, oh no, hell no, you didn't. But I can't. It's not my turn to talk. So I pinch my finger, reminding me, shut up, and let my eyes talk for me, where I just kind of, what? But I don't speak. That's key in a courtroom. You do not want to piss that judge off. It is not your turn to talk. Don't do it. Okay. And I just sat there quietly. And when it was my turn to talk, I said, Your Honor, I'm quite appalled. I take my career very seriously. She says I raised her rent with no warning, and I was in complete compliance with California Civil Code 19, and I read the civil code off. Do you know how I did that? I had a copy of the notice in the file. The civil code's on the notice. I made a sticky note of it. That tells the judge I know what I'm talking about. I said, Your Honor, I'd just like to provide you with these photographs. Nothing more, nothing less. My turn to talk. Here you go. I said, please take note of the hangman written on the wall in permanent marker. And the color of the carpet appears to be brown. However, where the couch was, you could see the carpet is blue. Your Honor, I ask you to please look at the damages done to this property and make your ruling in accordance with the law. That's all. And I didn't say anything else. It told that judge I knew exactly what I was talking about. I knew exactly what the law was without going into depth and breadth. Remember, you only have like 2 minutes to plead your case. So plead it rock solid in those 2 minutes. Give him everything. Let him make a decision. And don't talk smack about the other person. They're not there for drama. Stick to the facts. Keep it simple, stupid. I went to a court hearing once, and these people were suing everybody. Okay, they were pissed. They didn't get their whole deposit back. She held the keys for 18 days. I charged her 18 days of rent. She showed up in court and told the judge how she had moved out on this day, and she kept the keys to keep going back over there to feed the chickens because she sold them to the buyer of the property. but she wasn't living there. She just kept the keys so she can go feed the chickens. I only charged her rent, Your Honor, until she surrendered the keys. That's all I said, Your Honor. I'm sorry she's wasting the court's time. I've charged rent until she surrendered the keys. That's all I said. Anything else, Your Honor? No, I'll make my decision and you'll be notified. I won. Why? Because I followed the law. I stuck to the law. I didn't get into all the drama. I didn't tell the whole story. I kept it simple. Your Honor, I only charged rent until she surrendered the keys. Well, that's what the law says we can do. I won. Sometimes it's better to plead your case with facts you know are the facts, so you can stick to them very carefully, very cautiously, and not waste the court's time. It does wonders, trust me. Okay, let me go back to questions. I see there's a few back up here, so let's go. I'm sorry, I rambled a little bit. Do we have to give 15-day notice for past months' rent every month or just the most recent months? You want to put all the months they owe on a 15-day. If the carpet gets replaced and it's over 5 years old, can I still charge them for replacement? Anna, why are you replacing the carpet? Due to wear and tear or due to damage? That's the key. Damage is damage all day long. You can charge a tenant for damage until you're blue in the face. You can't charge them for wear and tear. I'll give you an example. Carpet's 5 years old, tenants move in. It's already expanded its life, okay? But it's in good shape. Tenants move in. They live there 5 years. Now we're 10 years without new carpet, but they had a pet and their pet destroyed the carpet by digging up in certain areas, trying to get out of rooms. So they cut up the carpet that way. They also had pet stains and urine and the padding in the subfloor. I get to charge them for damage because they damaged it. The lifespan, so you guys understand, is for wear and tear, not for damage. Okay. Okay, what is Jay asking me to do? Could you say that again? When the tenant leaves earlier and they break their lease, you try to rent when we have to account for the deposit. Okay, it depends on what's in your rental agreement, Jay. Some of them have a lease break fee. Example, if you do not fulfill your 1-year lease contract, there is a lease break fee comparable to 1 month's rent. So if they terminate early, you're already telling them in their rental agreement they're going to owe 1 month's rent for breaking their lease, and they're off the hook. You're done here. Okay. If you don't touch anything and you leave your lease like it is, most likely, because I don't know which lease contract you use, they are going to be responsible to pay the rent all the way up until a new tenant takes over. Plus, they're going to be responsible for any advertising expenses. Plus, they're going to be responsible to maintain the property. So if there's a gardener, water, things like that involved, they have to keep the grass green. All of that still applies to them. Okay. So it just depends. So when you try to re-rent and you have to account for the deposit, you still by law have to do their final disposition of security deposit within 21 days of them surrendering the keys to you. So you do an estimated deposit. You write at the top of it, estimated, really big. You do what you think the estimates are going to be, charging them the rent to the end of the term, charging them for the carpet cleaning, charging them for paint, whatever it is, but it's estimated. When the new tenant moves in on that day, that old tenant doesn't owe rent anymore. They only owe rent the day before that. So then you have 14 days to do your final, where you can go back and figure out what day the new tenant moved in, how long they owe the rent for, yada, yada, yada. I hope that answers your question, Jay. I'm talking about the difference between a final disposition of security deposit and an estimated disposition of security deposit. Nobody ever talks about an estimated disposition of security deposit, you guys. It's a tool you have. Use it. It's a wonderful godsend. A tenant installed an individual Ring camera in a stairway. Is it a common area stairway or inside their property? Since COVID has been extended, this addressed with 3-day cure warning notice or modifying the property. Isn't this a privacy problem for other tenants? Absolutely. It's, oh shit. Sorry. Craig told me what it was last night. I have somebody else that installed a camera illegally, and he told me what the legal term for it is. And it's unauthorized surveillance or unlawful surveillance. So yes, absolutely. It's unlawful surveillance, I believe. Don't hold me to that though, but there is a legal term that works with the police department for that. Give them a new 3-day curable breach of covenant and tell them that you're going to remove it. If it's in the common area, you can remove it. It's not their property that it was installed in. Go take it down. They can't do anything. Take it down and take it away. Pet odor. Pet odor is a problem, yes. What about the Consumer Affairs Law of 5 years for life of carpeting? Honey, that applies to wear and tear, not damage. Make sense? Damage is damage is damage. Like I said, had a house carpet was there for 5 years. It's already outlived its life term as far as wear and tear goes. Cleaned it up. It looked fabulous, held up good. The tenant got a dog peed all over the place. Now they damaged the carpet. They have to pay for that. Damage is damage. See how that works? If a tenant moves in her son, can I serve her a cure or quit notice? Absolutely. Unless you're already in litigation. If you're already in litigation, don't poke the bear. Talk to your attorney about everything that you have to do. Val says it would be a negative number. Okay, Val, I got to go back and see what we're talking about, because I don't know what the negative number is about. Everything in America is negative right now. Yes, take the camera down and the estimated deposit. Yes, it's a negative number. They should owe all the rent all the way to the end of their term. Example, if they move out 3 months, it should have the rest of the 1-year term on their thing of how much rent they owe. It should be a huge amount of numbers, okay? And we'll do a whole class, I'll do it again, on dispositions of security deposit, doing the estimated, doing the final, okay? The estimated security deposit is an amazing tool we have, you guys. If you don't have all your figures, your 21 days extending, you can change that to estimated, include the estimates. The estimated charge of the rent to the end of term is a great example, and utilize it that way. It helps so much, so much. I mean, and here I'm gonna throw you a little, wait, what did she just say? If it takes 6 months to get your final invoice, then you have 6 months to do the final disposition of security deposit. You have 14 days after you receive the final invoice. Dink. Okay. I see more questions. Hang on. Can a landlord put up a camera in a common area of a rental property? Absolutely. Absolutely. You just don't want to point it at one person's door. You want to have it pointed in multiple doors. So you want to put it far back and let it get the big picture and not be focused on one specific unit. That is where you get into problems. So having it cover multiple units or a common area, perfectly acceptable. And I'd be more than happy to help you. People have sent me photographs of their communities and where the cameras are installed. And we've talked about it. And yes, bingo. And Thank you, Geraldo. You remember, do not call it ever, ever, ever a security camera. Does not provide security. No one is watching it 24/7 and reporting what they're seeing to the police as it is happening. Therefore, it is a surveillance camera. It is not security. You will get sued over that. It is not a fun lawsuit. It is surveillance. They are not security cameras. They are surveillance cameras. And who do you release that footage to? Does anybody know? Does anybody know who you release the surveillance footage to? So a tenant comes to you and they say, hey, somebody broke into my car. I need that footage from the surveillance cameras. I need to look at it so I can see who did it. And then so I can copy it and give it to the police. You don't ever give it to anybody. Thank you, Gabby and April. It only goes to the police. You don't ever show it to a tenant. You don't ever give it to a tenant. The reason is they could be stalking another tenant, and now you're aiding and abetting in a crime by telling them and showing them when that person comes and goes. See the problem? So the only person you give that footage to is your law firm or the police. Or if it's funny, you could send it to me. I like to laugh. If it's really funny, you could post it on here and make us all giggle for the day. All right, everybody is good, correct? We went over quite a bit today, which is fine. I'm glad I could answer questions and help you guys. I feel so involved in your lives sometimes. I like it. All right, you guys have a great week. I'm gonna go ahead and end this. If you need anything, you know how to find me. Next week, I have an AGLA meeting right before. So I'll be doing a webinar with AGLA on Wednesday. So I'll probably be late to our webinar about 5 or 10 minutes. You guys know how that goes when I do an AGLA class. I'm sorry. But doing a class for the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles on Wednesday next week. So I might be a little late getting to our Wednesday with Widget, but they should open it up for you and allow you to at least come in. So you know I'm coming as soon as I can get off of that webinar. And then the following week, we will be in the Sierras. So wonderful backgrounds for the 2 weeks from now. All right. You guys have a great week. If you need me for anything, you know how to find me. Enjoy yourselves and be safe. Bye.